Hi, and welcome to Living Connected. So, I never meant to start a podcast. In fact, I used to always joke that there are way too many podcasts out there. So, I don't consider this a podcast. What I really wanted this to be is just recording conversations that I have with some really, really fascinating, interesting people that are doing some great things in healthcare. And I have a saying that there are no coincidences, and sometimes the universe speaks and you're supposed to meet people. And I met our next guest at a women's healthcare executive meeting conference, actually, in Vegas earlier this year. I wasn't even planning to go. And her name is Vasanta Pundarika, and she actually came up to me. I was on a panel, and she came up to me after the panel presentation. She said, "Hi," and she introduced herself. And my first thought was, I love this woman's energy. And she said, "Can we just get to know each other?" And I said, "Absolutely, let's do that." And we've had, a couple of really good conversations, and she's doing some really great stuff. She's the managing director and co-founder of Matrix Capital Markets, but she's going to talk about some of the other stuff that she's doing. And I wanted to, Vasanta, welcome, by the way, to
Thank you. Thank you so much for having
yeah,
me.
no, thanks for joining. My hope was two things. Number one, I think that your story and where you're headed and what you're doing with your career can be really, really inspiring to people, not just women, but just people who are sitting on that like itch and that dream to do something, but just can't do it. And then secondly, I think really where your head's at in terms of how do we support healthcare innovation in the right way with the right founders can be really informational, frankly, for people out there. I was a business owner myself. I started a practice from 2009 to 2015, and it is what was my proudest moment. I loved this business that I built, but I had had my MBA then. I didn't know I was the CEO, COO, CFO. All of it at once. I was burned out, and I sold my business to a private equity company. Had I known someone like you back then, I think I probably would have said, "Hey, Vasanta, here's what I'm doing with my business. What do you think I should do with it?" Right? So,
hmm
but better late than never. I'm glad we're connecting, and I'm hoping that listeners of the podcast get some, inspiration and then maybe some information, right, on what they can do to realize their dreams and what they want to do in healthcare. So
Now we know each other for your next several companies that you start.
that's right. Thank you. Okay, so tell us, so real quick, because most folks probably don't know about Matrix. I didn't until I met you. Tell us about what you're doing and where you're headed, and just I just want the listeners to really kind of get to know you and your journey
hmm
and the why behind what you're doing and where you're headed.
Yeah, so I've been a healthcare investment banker for 18 years, from the day that I graduated college. And people ask me, why healthcare? And I joke around and say, my father wanted me to go into finance, my mother wanted me to be a doctor. I don't like things that are gross, and so I had to get as close to healthcare as possible without
Although
actually
some people
becoming a
would say
doctor.
investment banking can be gross, but that's okay.
Yes, but you don't have to look at
That's
blood.
true. Most
That,
of the
that,
time.
that is the main part most of the time. Yeah, it's true most of the time. And so that's what originally got me, I was an anthropology major in college. I started working in finance in 2006. But it was healthcare that kept me interested for so long. We were working with these large hospital systems back in '06, and they started consolidating. I was part of that whole wave of consolidation, started working on all of the sectors that are within a large hospital system, whether that's home health or labs, dialysis, behavioral health, etc. Um, Working with behavioral health companies then led me to working with a lot of founder-owned businesses, and that's what led me to leave the company I was at, which was a small boutique called Shattuck Hammond, which got acquired by Morgan Keys, got acquired by Raymond James. So I started working at a small company, ended up working at a
Hmm.
large one, left to go work with founders, founder owners, provider owners, family owners of healthcare businesses that were either looking to grow their businesses and needed capital for that, or wanted to sell their businesses and weren't sure how to go about doing that. So working with a lot of first time founders that were going through this process for the very first time. And healthcare just keeps on changing. And I'm somebody who likes to learn new things constantly. And healthcare, always something new, always something different. And so it kept me interested in and invest in the space for a really long time. And I think I would have continued doing it for a lot longer if I hadn't suddenly, it's not a push out of banking, it's a pull towards
Mm-hmm.
something. And what you were alluding to a few minutes ago is I am being personally pulled towards women's health. So I'm going to be leaving investment banking. We're recording this at the end of May. I'm going to be leaving investment banking at the end of this week so that I can pull myself towards women's health. And that's a space where I firmly believe, that in America we are
Mm-hmm.
missing a lot of healthcare for women.
Mm-hmm.
There's this huge health inequity, and that's across, all, minorities, majorities, everything. We don't have a lot of healthcare for women, especially for women that age out of being in pediatric care. And until they're in very end of life care, there's this big gap. I'm in the middle of that big gap, and so it's over the course of the last couple of years, hearing my friends' stories, interacting with the medical system myself, and hearing family stories has really opened my eyes to how much we are sorely in need of this. I'm seeing all of these founders that are so excited about the space. They have so much passion. But one thing that I was kind of hearing over and over is they need more financial resources, wherewithal, help, advice, strategy. And that is what I've been doing for the last almost 2 decades now. And so I want to so in short, what I'm wanting to do and what I'm going to do, what I'm going to be doing starting next week, is to put the firepower behind these founders that have the passion and the ideas to build these companies in women's healthcare. And I'm going to put the financial firepower behind them.
I love that. So there's what you're describing is goals of inspiration, right? When
Mm-hmm.
people ask though, oh, are you running away for something or are you running to something? I think what they're really saying is, what are you inspired by?
Yeah.
Right? Is it a
Yeah.
goal of desperation where you're avoiding something, or this is like, I've got to do this? And that's what it sounds like to me, is like, this has just been calling to you for a long time. And you finally said, I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's been building inside me for a while now. And becoming, every time I get really upset about something that I see on the news or something that I hear from one of my friends, it just grew bigger and bigger and bigger, until it kind of got to a point where I said to myself, I cannot not do this. I have to do this. And it almost felt like I need to do this now. I need to start now. And even thinking about waiting, 2 or 3 months felt like too much time. I had to start this now. And that's how I feel right now. I'm
Yeah.
so antsy to get started and get going. I mean, when I was telling you about this, Arti, you said, stop, take a breath, because I was
Yeah.
talking so
Yeah.
fast and telling you about it. And I've calmed down a little in the
Yeah.
last week or so, but it's still really exciting. Because there are so many gaps in the market, so many spaces
Yeah.
that people who are in that financial world can come in and fill in healthcare. And I'm in a unique position because I have been working at that intersection of finance and
Hmm.
healthcare for a long time. So it's a different perspective to bring to the market, and something that I think is really important. And I'm hoping to be a game changer in the
Yeah.
market.
I've no doubt that you're going to be hugely successful. So I will be rooting for you. So can we talk a little bit specific about women founders, right? Female
Yeah.
founders. There's a lot of just stats out there. I mean, how is it different for female founders in terms of getting investors?
So, women's health, not every single founder is a woman,
Yep.
but a lot of them are.
Yep.
And women's health, to be clear, like, even before we start talking about your question, I just want to set the stage. I'm not talking about OBGYN and fertility. That's a very, very small little piece of women's health. We have the whole rest of our
Yeah.
bodies, and all of that needs
Yeah.
healthcare, right? The number, I asked someone on the train, I talk to people all the time everywhere that I go. So I was on the subway on Saturday, headed to the New York Liberty game, and I was talking to two people. One of them ended up being an oncology researcher, so it was a really interesting impromptu conversation. And I asked them, what do you think the number one cause of death for women is? And one said cervical cancer, the other one said breast cancer, and I said, it's actually heart
Hmm.
disease. Um, and so, we talk about women's health, and a lot of people immediately think OB/GYN fertility,
Hmm.
but it's everything. It's
Yeah.
all of the parts of healthcare for a woman. So not all the founders are men, but not all the founders are women, but a lot of them are. And women founders, and this is not just healthcare, but across all of, founders in all different spaces, get approximately 2% of venture capital funding. and they end up having to meet with investors 3 times as many times. So that's 3 times as much
Three
time
times
that a
more than
woman
a
found,
male founder.
3 times more than a male
Wow.
founder, um, to get the same amount of dollars. And then all in all, they're only getting 2% of the total dollars that is being put into venture capital investments. 3 times the time is a lot of
Yeah.
time. That is a lot of time for a founder that is starting a business. There's a lot of time that they're spending trying to get investment for that business versus figuring out what the operations of that
Yeah.
business should be like. Doing all of the trial and error that you need to do early on for the business. They're spending all of that time instead trying to get this investment.
Yeah.
And you hear this all the time. A lot of times, the questions that the investors ask, men versus women, are different.
Hmm.
And then, they'll ask a different question to a woman, and they won't ask her, for example, what are your metrics, and what are the financial metrics that you're expecting over the next 2 to 3 years, but then reject the proposal or reject the startup because they didn't tell them what the financial projections are for the next 2 to 3 years. And so some of the you know, change that needs to happen is on the part of the actual investors and the questions that they're
Mm-hmm.
asking. And some of the change needs to be on the part of the founders to say, okay, what are some more efficient ways that I can go out and get this investment? Because it's not going to work to go and have 3 times as many
No.
meetings over and over and over
I mean,
again. That's unsustainable.
yeah, and it's not just the time thing. I can't imagine. It's got to be demoralizing and exhausting,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
By the time you get
Yeah.
to your fifth or sixth one, you're just like, ready to give up, right? And I mean, that's the beauty of it. I think the female founders I have met have been so tenacious and are
Yeah.
unwilling to, but the fact they have to work that much harder just frankly isn't fair. And to your
Yeah.
point, with the right support, they can be better prepared, right? And we can get ahead of some of that bias that exists.
Absolutely. And I read this thing the other day. Successful people don't manage their time, they manage their
Mm,
energy.
that's true.
And we're putting these founders in a position where they almost can't manage their energy. They have to keep going and having these meetings, because whether they're losing their energy or not, because that's the only way they can make their startup work. And you're right, the ones that you've met probably have been really tenacious, because it's almost like Darwin,
Yeah.
survival of the fittest. Only the tenacious
Yeah.
ones are getting through,
Yeah.
right? The ones that have really good ideas that but maybe aren't able to just keep on, you know, going through the process of meeting investors over and over and over again, they might not make it, and they may have had great, this really great idea for a really good business that would be helping all of
Mm-hmm.
us. Um, and the other thing that drives me insane is I go to a lot of conferences, I talk to a lot of people, and I keep hearing this thing, you know, we should invest in women's healthcare. And yeah, I don't disagree. We should invest in women's healthcare, but we also need to invest in it because it's a wonderful business opportunity. McKinsey said it's $1 trillion business
Yeah.
opportunity. So it's $1 trillion business opportunity. We should be investing in it, not just because it's a good investment and we need to have it, but also because it's a good investment from a dollar's perspective.
Yeah.
And that's how we should be talking about it, because it's not, it gets compared to these other investments that are potentially, okay, well, this is going to be the next, I don't know, some like really cool big thing that's going to take off, and we're going to be able to make a really big return on this other thing. And then they're comparing that to, this women's health business that they should invest in. Well, yes, you should invest in it because it is also something
Right.
that could take off. There's a big market opportunity for it, and you can get a really big return on this business as well. And that's how they should be thinking about it. That's how investors should think about it. Not just this is something we should or shouldn't invest in. Should invest in it because women need healthcare, but also you should invest in it because it's a good business
Yeah.
opportunity and there's a good return to be had on a lot of these
Yeah.
businesses. And so the conversation needs to shift. And I also firmly believe the conversation needs to expand. Like, we could be in an echo chamber, Arti. You and I could sit and talk about this forever and talk about how important women's healthcare is, and how we've each experienced it in our lives. And so we know that it's really important. It's a good business opportunity, but we need more and more people at this
Mm-hmm.
table, and we need to expand the room as much as possible. I was really frustrated because there have been a lot of little conferences that have been happening in women's health, and there was one, a month ago or so, where they closed the invite list and didn't let more people come in that wanted to be in that conversation and wanted to listen to that space. And um, that was really frustrating to me because we don't need that. We
Mm-hmm.
need more people talking about this, more people whose eyes are open,
Mm-hmm.
more people. And I'm saying people specifically because we need all people,
Right. Men and
men
women.
and women, men and women, to be invested, to be putting their dollars to work, to be wanting that return in women's
Yeah.
health.
So I love the finance perspective because it almost makes it sound like this altruistic charity like thing. Oh, we have to invest. But what you're saying is
Yes.
there's money in it. And from what
Yeah.
I can, at least from what I'm reading, women are gaining more and more wealth, right? Are
Mm-hmm.
looking, there's money for
Mm-hmm.
women to spend in terms of just investing in businesses, but also in being, I think, healthy consumers of these types of businesses. At least that's the
I'm going to
impression
get
that
this
I get.
percentage. I'm going to get this percentage wrong, but I think women
That's okay.
make
We'll just
something
start
like
making up numbers. It's
85%.
all right.
Yeah. I think I've seen this percentage. I've seen multiple different percentages, so that's why I might get this wrong. But I think women make 85% of healthcare decisions. Um, like for
It's
everyone, they're
definitely over
making all the healthcare
50%, I'll tell
decisions.
you that. And
Yeah,
85% is
yeah,
believable.
yeah. I think it may be higher. Actually, it was shortchanging it a
Hmm.
little bit just to put it in there. But if women are making 85% of healthcare decisions, but a lot of healthcare is not actually serving women, a lot of women. So I just turned 40 in December. A lot of my friends are in this position where, why are you smiling?
I just remember turning 40. It wasn't that
Yeah.
long ago. I'm only 46, but still, it just still
There you
seems
go.
like a decade ago.
It's only half a
Only
decade.
half a decade.
Um, But a lot of my friends are in this position where they're looking after, themselves, their spouse, their
Yeah.
kids, their parents, their spouse's parents. And so they're the linchpins of a whole ecosystem of people around them. And they're making the decisions for healthcare decisions for all of those people. Meanwhile, there's no healthcare for them.
Right.
And so that is a really frustrating construct that exists. And also, if women are making all of those decisions, women have wealth
Hmm.
now and have been building wealth. And I've been talking to a lot of people about this because I'm also on the board of a not-for-profit, and we've been, fundraising for that as we got to our 35th year gala a couple months ago, right? I guess it was just last month, and it is a lot easier to help a woman think about donating money to a
Hmm.
cause than it is to help a woman think about investing money in a business.
Interesting.
But if you invest money in a business, then you'll have more money that, provided the business then does well and
Hmm.
your money grows, then you'll have more money to turn around and invest in the causes that are important to you. And a lot of the conversations we've been having nationally. For example, I don't remember any of the names of these people, but the woman who got a lot of money because her husband was invested in Berkshire
Hmm.
Hathaway, and she gave it all to a medical school here in New York and made tuition free for all the medical students in that school. That was a huge charitable contribution that has been applauded and absolutely should be applauded. Um, the money that Mackenzie Scott has been giving a lot of different not-for-profits around the country has been life-changing to a lot of those nonprofits. The I think the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Melinda Gates just announced that she's going to
Hmm.
separate and kind of do her own foundation, and I already know that that's going to do a lot of
Hmm.
good, right? Because of how she's been doing everything so far. But how are these people able to do all of those really big things? Because money was invested, money was grown, and then they were able to make this huge impacts.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of women that think that in order to do good, they have to immediately give their money to something, which I think, I do firmly believe in charitable giving and that you should establish a pattern for yourself of doing that to the causes that are important to you. But if you also invest your dollars, then your dollars grow, and then you can actually be more impactful to the
Yeah.
causes that are important
But
to
I
you.
would argue, Vasanta, that investing in the right companies in healthcare
Oh, yeah,
checks off both boxes. Right? I think that's the beauty, right?
100%.
It's like we're not asking people to invest in burger joints. What we're saying is healthcare companies that support women, I think, is a cause that also gives you a return on investment. Like it just seems like a no-brainer to me. No?
It's like no, I agree. It's like a two, what is that? I'm trying to think of two birds with one
Yeah.
stone. Yeah, two birds with one stone. It's like you're not only investing
Right.
your dollars to grow your dollars, but you're also investing your dollars to grow your dollars by backing a company that is building something that is useful and important to you, and that is going to help a lot of people that don't have access to certain kinds of
Yeah.
care. And but I think it's if you want a company to exist that helps you get, I don't know, pelvic floor
Hmm.
therapy, then if you invest in a company that is building out a series of pelvic floor therapy clinics, then that company will exist where you can go get pelvic floor therapy.
Hmm.
So it is
Yeah.
two birds in one stone, or with one stone. If you want there to be more, preventative heart health clinics around the country, if you find a founder that is doing that and building that out, then and you invest in that company, then that will start to exist around the country, right?
Yeah.
So it's it's backing the founders that are building the businesses that you feel like you need in your life.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many different things. Like I work in healthcare. I'm highly educated. I know all kinds of weird healthcare words because, even though I'm not a doctor, I've been working with all these healthcare businesses for a long time. I've learned how to pronounce all the, words that are strange to the rest of us that are not doctors. But I had never heard the word perimenopause until I was 35.
Wow. That's saying a
So
lot.
it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't a
Yeah.
word that I knew.
No, that's an important
And
stage too.
yeah.
That's where a lot of the bone health and muscle, I mean, it's a
Hmm.
pretty big opportunity, I think, to
Yeah.
really make an impact. Because we wait till menopause, right, to actually start intervening in women's health. But it's really those years leading up to it where some of the
Correct.
biggest bone loss and other, metabolic changes start happening. So,
Yeah, you have to start working on your
yeah,
nutrition
yeah,
now, not 10 years from
yeah,
now. Um, and I mean, with women's healthcare, there's so many different angles that we need to attack this from. There's the financial angle that I've been talking about. There's the awareness angle. There's also the advertising
yeah,
angle. Some of these companies that are, building out businesses in menopause or perimenopause, et cetera, they're not able to advertise their businesses through all the normal advertising channels because all of the algorithms block them because of the words that are being used,
yeah,
or the images that are being used. And so there needs to be a change there so that this can actually be
yeah.
advertised. You know, menopause. And I was talking to someone the other day. Saying something is normal doesn't mean it doesn't have to be treated,
Right,
right? So, I spent a lot of time in behavioral health, as I've told you before, but if you say postpartum depression is normal,
right,
great. It's normal. Makes a person
right.
feel like they're not crazy when they're going through it because they know it's normal. But that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be
That's
treated.
right.
It still needs to be
That's right.
treated. It's normal. You're not crazy. It's
Yeah,
normal, but it still needs
yeah,
treatment. And it's, but we do seem to be crazy as a country because we don't have a lot of healthcare for all of these things. Um, and yeah, I mean, these kinds of things can really keep you up at night. When I think about, Black maternal care, it just makes me,
oh, it's so
first of
sad,
all,
so
enraged,
sad,
and second of
so sad.
all, stay awake forever.
So you're going to take some time off, right? I think you're going to go to Europe and you're going to try not to think about this business, just to come back with a clear mind. My guess is that your biggest challenge is going to be what you attack, because I mean, you
Yeah.
just called out. I mean, what you just named was just the tip of the iceberg in terms of opportunities. So, like I said, I'm rooting for you. I think you're going to do amazing things. And I'd love to, once you get onto this new adventure and get things rolling, I'd love to have you back on and, talk about what you're investing in and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, I am going to go away for 2 weeks. That was the compromise. Because as I said, I am so antsy
Yeah.
to get going and figure
Yeah.
this out. But there are so many
Yeah.
gaps in the market that need to be filled. I've only even mentioned a couple here, but there's so many more in my head that I have them all written down in a list. And yes, which ones can I tackle and which ones are
Yeah.
feasible to tackle at the beginning, and how will it progress. So, I'm excited, and I 100% realize that I have, I have the will and the excitement and energy to go after this and take this risk to do this. But I also have the opportunity I'm in a position personally where I can take this risk, and so I'm very thankful for
Yeah.
that. And that's exciting because now I can listen to this voice in my head that's been getting stronger and stronger and
Yeah.
stronger, saying you need to go do this and you need to do this
Yeah.
now. So I'm excited. So I'd love to come back on and have this
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah. I
again.
think you're going to inspire a
Yeah,
lot of people that are sitting there going, oh, I've been sitting here waiting to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So
you just have to go for
you
it.
do.
Pull the
You just got
plug.
to do it.
Pull the
Just do
plug.
it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, safe travels. Enjoy your time off.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully, you do get a chance to disconnect a little bit. And we'll have you back on in a few months. I can't wait to see what you do. It's going to be amazing.
Sounds great. I
All
love
right.
it.